Welcome! In this video, we introduce the topic of facilitating a daily scrum. Per the Scrum Guide, the purpose of the daily scrum is to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary, adjusting the upcoming planned work. An important outcome of the daily scrum is that it produces an actionable plan for the next day of work. Only the developers are required to attend the daily scrum. However, if the product owner or scrum master are actively working on items in the sprint backlog, they can also participate in the daily scrum as developers. Here, we share a few popular daily scrum facilitation formats that many scrum teams use, some tips to keep the daily scrum focus, and common pitfalls that teams can encounter if they're not attentive when using these formats. As a reminder, anyone that the team agrees on or off the team, can facilitate the Scrum events, including the daily Scrum. Format 1, the 3 questions. The Scrum Guide does not specify an agenda for the daily Scrum, but older versions of the Scrum Guide suggested 3 questions that many developers continue to use today in their daily Scrum. In this format, the developers go around and each person, one at a time, answer 3 questions, usually something like, what did I do since the last daily Scrum? What will I do today? Are there any impediments preventing me from doing my work? This format allows each developer a chance to speak about their contributions, dependencies, and other impediments so that other team members are aware and can help, and the team can adjust as necessary. However, there are some things to be aware of, such as every developer answering 3 questions can make it hard to stay within a time box of 15 minutes, especially if you have a large team. So if you're using these guiding questions, make sure that the developers resolve any issues outside the daily scrum with whomever necessary so that everyone has a chance to participate. Another challenge with the 3 questions format at the daily scrum is that it can devolve into a status update where each person is waiting their turn to speak, so it loses focus on collaboration toward the sprint goal. If your team likes using questions during the daily scrum to trigger conversation, one way to get them beyond a status update is to answer team-based and open-ended questions like, what is the progress toward our sprint goal? What is the next step for us to move forward toward the sprint goal? What impediments are we facing and how can we approach this impediment? What or who do we need to help us make this decision? Format 2, walking the board, also known as walking the wall. Most Scrum teams use a board, whether virtually or physically, to visualize their sprint backlog and the active items they are working on during the sprint. A board at minimum can typically help a team understand at any given moment what work is in progress, ready to do, done, or blocked by an impediment. So it's a good technique to help teams focus. Contrary to the 3 questions technique, walking the board or wall, the daily Scrum conversation targets the work being done rather than individuals. The challenge with this technique during the daily Scrum is that, again, the team may forget about the sprint goal, especially if they are only focused on the specific work items that are in progress or blocked. One way to bring focus back to the sprint goal is by asking a follow-up question, such as, how are we doing toward achieving our sprint goal? Additionally, making the sprint goal visible to everyone on the board can also be used as a reminder for the team. Format 3, using flow metrics in the daily scrum. To keep ongoing flow within the sprint, some teams want to know how much and how long items have been in progress. Reviewing flow metrics such as current work in progress and work item age in the daily scrum will help teams decide what they should focus on. The format is similar to walking the board, and here the team includes work in progress and work item age metrics to steer their conversation as they discuss work items. To help with this, they can use charts such as an aging work in progress chart. Like walking the board, the challenge of using data to drive the daily scrum is that the team may forget about the sprint goal. Also, Being so focused on the flow of work can distract the team from asking an important question, which is around the value of the work toward the sprint goal. Teams should be curious and always consider, is this work still valuable? How are we doing toward meeting our sprint goal? These are just a few ways to facilitate the daily scrum. There are many. A team should experiment as they see necessary and choose what works best for them. As the Scrum Guide notes, the developers can select whatever structure and techniques they want, as long as their daily Scrum focuses on progress toward the sprint goal and produces an actionable plan for the next day of work. This creates focus and improves self-management. Hopefully this video has been helpful, and thank you for watching. In this video, we have introduced a few basic ways on how to facilitate the daily Scrum and some positives and challenges to consider for each of those techniques. But what do you do when there's little participation or other situations that make for an ineffective daily Scrum? We remind you to come back to the Scrum Guide, the values and principles of facilitation. To learn more about those principles, we invite you to learn more on the Scrum.org website, and you can also learn more about facilitation in the Professional Scrum Facilitation course, where we address these types of common scenarios.